ओंटारियो ਦੇ ਸਕੂਲਸ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਆਊਟ ਆਫ ਸਾਈਟ ਆਊਟ ਆਫ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਪਾਲਿਸੀ ਆ ਲਾਗੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਸੈਪਟੈਂਬਰ 2024 ਤੋਂ। ओंटारियो ਦੇ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਸਟੀਫਨ ਲੈਚੇ ਨੇ ਅਨਾਉਂਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ओंटारियो ਦੇ ਸਕੂਲਸ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਸੈੱਲਫੋਨ ਬੈਨਸ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਊਗੇ ਔਰ ਜੋ ਵੇਪਿੰਗ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਬੈਨ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਊਗੀ। 2019 ਚ ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਾਲਿਸੀ ਸੀਗੀ, ਲੇਕਿਨ दैट वाज अप टू द स्कूल बोर्ड्स whether to implement or not, और काफ़ी मेजॉरिटी ऑफ स्कूल बोर्ड्स ने वो पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंट नहीं की सी। कुछ स्कूल बोर्ड्स ने इंप्लीमेंट की सी सैलफोन बैन दी। सवाल इत्थे आ उठदा है कि की आ जिहड़ी नवीं पॉलिसी है आउट ऑफ साइट आउट ऑफ माइंड जिहड़ी सैप्टेंबर 2024 तो लागू होएगी, की इहनूं एनफोर्स किया जाएगा, किद्दां एनफोर्स किया जाएगा, और की आ जिहड़ी पॉलिसी है किद्दां 2019 की पॉलिसी तो डिफरेंट होएगी। सो ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕੰਸਿਸਟੈਂਸੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੰਸਿਸਟੈਂਸੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਬੋਰਡ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਬੈਨ ਕਰਨ, ਆਪਣੇ ਪਲਾਨਸ ਨਾਲ ਆਉਣ, ਔਰ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਲਾਅ ਐਨਫੋਰਸਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਐਨਫੋਰਸਮੈਂਟ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਇੰਪਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਸੋ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿੰਡਰਗਾਰਟਨ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਗ੍ਰੇਡ 6 ਤੱਕ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਪੂਰਾ ਦਿਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫੋਨ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਊਟ ਆਫ ਰੀਚ ਰਹੇਗਾ, ਬੈਨ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ 7th ਗ੍ਰੇਡ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਦੇ ਗ੍ਰੇਡਸ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਲੈਕਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਲਾਸ ਟਾਈਮ 'ਚ ਫੋਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ। ਇਹਦੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਡਿਟੇਲ ਸਟੀਫਨ ਲੈਚੇ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਨੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬੱਚੇ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਇਸ ਪॉलिसी ਨੂੰ ਲਾਈਕ ਨਾ ਕਰਨ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਟੀਚਰਸ ਔਰ ओंटारियो ਦੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਹੈ। ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਅਗਰ ਕੋਈ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏ ਤੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਔਰ ਟੀਚਰਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ 'ਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਣੀ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪॉलिसी ਹੈ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਕ ਲਈ ਹੈ। ਇਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਦੱਸੀਏ ਕਿ ओंटारियो ਦੇ 3 ਤੋਂ 4 ਸਕੂਲਸ ਨੇ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਜਾਇੰਟਸ ਟਿਕਟੌਕ, ਮੈਟਾ, ਇੰਸਟਾਗ੍ਰਾਮ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਕੇਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ, ਲਾਅ ਸੂਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ताकि बच्चों का मैंटल स्ट्रैस, उन्होंने एजुकेशन डिस्टर्ब होंदी है जब स्कूल प्रीमिसेस च बच्चे फोन यूज़ करते हैं, वेपिंग करते हैं। आ लॉ सूट किया होया ओंटारियो स्कूल बोर्ड्स, काफ़ी स्कूल बोर्ड्स ने 4 स्कूल बोर्ड्स ओंटारियो दे। सो ये बाद जो फैसला लिता गया है एजुकेशन मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ तो कि ऑल ओवर ओंटारियो सारे स्कूलों च बैन किया जाएगा, सेम पॉलिसी सैलफोन बैन्स एंड वेपिंग बैन्स। देखते हैं एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर ने ये ऊपर की क्या।
We were very proud to stand with medical leaders from CAMH to the Heart and Stroke Foundation to student trustees, leaders from the Canadian Cancer Society. We had experts, scientists, and mental health leaders consulted with endorsements from Sick Kids and CHIO. Very progressive, responsible, and frankly comprehensive plan to finally tackle some of the big societal challenges of impacting our kids, their mental health, and their well-being. And that is distractions in classrooms, in addition to the inappropriate and disturbing increase in proliferation of cannabis and vaping and tobacco products. And we stand as a government forcefully against this illegal smoking of drugs and or tobacco on our school properties. As a government, as progressive conservatives, we stand alone against the increase of cannabis and vaping. We're taking decisive action, zero tolerance to change culture, and refocus schools on the academic achievement that parents really want us to get back to, focusing on building skills of reading, writing, and math in STEM disciplines, building human skills, relationship skills, learning life skills that include how to dialogue, how to debate, how to be civil and respectful, and how to communicate using social emotional skills that transcend technology. I understand that this is a long-standing issue. It's going to require partnership from children to parents to teachers to public health. Of course, all of us working together. But I have never been more confident over the past days since this announcement, with a massive level of support, 85+% of Ontarians saying, yes, this is common sense.
Minister, this is a good policy, out of sight, out of mind. But can you let us know how this policy is different than the policy which was announced by the government in 2019? Because that time, many of the school boards, they had an option, but they never implemented it. Just few school boards, they implemented that policy in 2019. So how this 2024 policy of out of sight, out of mind is different than policy of 2019, and also how this will be implemented, enforcement. So what are the procedures and details of enforcement of this policy?
Yeah, and of course I will turn it to Natalie and Billy if they have any perspective from what they're hearing and their recommendations on this. But there's a big difference in 2019, the Ministry of Education asked school boards to build a policy. And the truth is, the overwhelming majority produced weak policies that were ineffective and unenforceable. And here we are, 4 years later, and we have high rates of vaping, among the highest in Canada, as Billy mentioned. To Natalie's point, we have acute mental health issues because kids have not unlearned how to coexist without the dependence on technology. So because of the lack of strength and teeth and enforcement and consistency in the policy, the province made a decision that we have to step in with a provincial standard that elevates the expectation, that clarifies the enforcement, and that stands by our teachers and our principals and our school boards to ensure that they know that at the highest levels, from Natalie, Billy, the Premier, myself, and down, we will have the backs of staff. We will intentionally, vigorously defend their right to use discretion when technology is appropriate, when it is not. When it is not allowed, and a student is violating that request of the teacher 1 or 2 or 3 times in good faith to put their phone away, and they still want to have the sound on playing, on Instagram or on TikTok, we're now giving permission. In fact, we are requiring the teacher to get that student to come forward, bring their cell phone, turn it off in front of the desk. It sits there for the rest of the class, for the instructional time. At the end of the class, that student from grade 7 and up would then retrieve their phone and go to the next class. They could use it in the hall, during spares, during lunch. We're trying to teach kids how to be responsible young adults. So banning outright, often in virtually all jurisdictions, has not been effective. These kids will revolt. Any parent out there will know. So then how do we come up with a reasonable, balanced policy that says during class time, it's out of sight, out of mind. That is the policy, out of sight, out of mind. Outside of classroom, we teach them how to be responsible, where we reduce the level of dependence. We reduce the number of cyberbullying incidents. Part of our announcement is explicit learning to prohibit images of other kids without their consent. These TikTok videos where kids are doing these videos in the washrooms, or sometimes even on the playground. We now require explicit consent. And we are going to ban social media sites from all school devices and all school Wi-Fi. We're the first jurisdiction in the country to do that. So we are serious about this. We stand by the staff. They have a difficult job. We are grateful for what our educators do. And we are giving them a message of total support when it comes to implementing this. Teachers have asked for this. Parents demand this. 85% of Ontarians support this. So I feel good about what we're doing. And I recognize, we're changing kids' minds. It's not going to be easy. It can't happen by the overnight. It's going to take time and patience. But if we work together, we will implement this with strength and, frankly, with effect. And of course, if there's anything to add, Natalie, Billy, please pipe in. But I know you both are quite passionate on this, and we've both been hearing a lot from parents and educators in the past few days. So if you have anything to share, please, Natalie, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is that this announcement and PPM 128 introduces more consistency. So I think we heard the minister talk about some school boards did have a policy, some enforce the policy. This introduces consistency across all school boards so that no matter what school board or what school a student attends, the same rules apply. And so I think that's aligns well with our government's decision and to increase consistency and increase accountability across all school boards in the province. So I'll pass it over to you, Billy.
So before school boards had to create a policy and enforce it, I'm now removing the discretion and I'm imposing the province's policy, enforcement, and educational component. So this is non-discretionary. I'm using the legal authority of the ministry. It is binding. It will be in place for September. Pardon me, Billy.
Yeah, I talked to some teachers firsthand, and they appreciate that because they think they need a tool if they need it, right? So, and some teachers told me that they implement before we have this, they tried to collect the kids' phone before the class if they try to help them not to be distracted, but and the result was good. And yes, the first week may be a little bit challenging, but after a couple of weeks, everybody get used to the routine and the kids are okay with that. So they understand, right? But they need some adults to implement it. So this policy is very important for the teachers and also for the kids. They understand, but they need some help from the adult, from the teacher. So as the teacher, they are professional. They know when and how to implement that. So I think this is well received. Thank you.
And that is exactly why we sent a letter home to parents yesterday, because Billy raises an important point. We cannot implement this without the support of parents. Like this hinges on parents signing on and agreeing to the policy. So we sent them a letter yesterday. We're going to be funding School Mental Health Ontario to produce intensive training for both the staff and the parents on how to have those conversations. And we're launching an advertising campaign specific to kids using the platforms they are obsessed with, social media, etc., because we know we've got to reach them where they're at on the new rules and their obligations and the deterrence involved. So there's a lot we're doing to change behavior. And to Billy's point, we need to be patient, but we need to be rigorous in enforcing it with the sense that over time, we're going to create habits. And frankly, hopefully, we'll change the culture within the school. And cannabis, we are taking a very strong zero tolerance. Ever since the federal Liberals legalized cannabis, we have many unintended or predictable consequences. We have normalized in this country. You go down the streets of Toronto or anywhere in the GTA, and you literally smell cannabis on parks where kids are at. Totally irresponsible and unacceptable. And so we need to fundamentally educate young people on the long-term developmental impacts, the adverse impacts, how it can compound issues of anxiety, stress, and confidence. So we really see this as a public health intervention to help safeguard the lives of kids and keep them healthy when in school. So step one is curriculum. At the core, this is an educational announcement where we're trying to educate young people through persuasion and through prevention that they can be responsible by not being a consumer of these products, illegal products, by the way. Because if you're under 18, you shouldn't be smoking anyway. You can't own a vape. You can't you can have tobacco. You can have cannabis. Yet how is it possible you go into any washroom in a high school today, boys and girls, by the way, and you're going to smell the odor of vaping? So we have a societal moral obligation to crack down on illegal activity and to protect kids from this behavior. And that's why, the government, from an upstream perspective, we increased the vape tax, and now we're increasing mandatory learning in the curriculum on vaping, on the negative impacts, the perils of vaping, tobacco, cannabis. That's going to be mandatory in elementary schools. We already have it. We were the first province in the country to institute learning on vaping and cannabis, but we're going to be massively expanding it and bring it in earlier because these kids are smoking and consuming these products earlier. I mean, there are some parts of Ontario where we have data that suggests or examples where we have kids in grade 4 and 5 owning vapes. It's alarming. I think for any one of us, that's disturbing to hear. It's sad to hear. So there are problems, and many of these kids, yes, do it for curiosity, sometimes for coping, and often there's other mental health issues at play, which is why we have to treat this with compassion. I mean, yes, we've got enforcement tools, and we expect them to be used, but Billy made a good point. Like, we respect the professional judgment of teachers. When they know that there's a real behavioral challenge, they will leverage the expanded community-based mental health and addiction supports where they need it to help treat that child and give access to the family, to the supports they will need. So the curriculum is important. The training of staff will be critical. We're mandating learning, professional development, using wonderful organizations to deliver that. In addition, we've got an ad campaign, parent letters in multi-languages to speak to parents from every diaspora, every community in the province. We really want to reach parents and help them understand their role is critical to the success.
Minister, why don't Education Ministry consider dress code in the schools? Because we have seen across the globe, many countries, most of the countries, their schools have a dress code. Means dress teaches the discipline. Lawyers, doctors, construction workers, and other field professionals, they have a dress code because that teaches the discipline. Why don't Ontario take a lead in that and discuss on having the school uniforms in schools, not only in private schools but in the public schools also? Can you let us know about this, please?
School boards have the authority to do that. Many Catholic schools already do. Today's announcement is about restricting cell phones and banning vaping and cannabis in schools.